I'm Sarah Montague.
And I'm Melanie Keller.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending May 7th, 2022. A municipal court in Sarajevo has handed down the first anti-queer hate speech conviction in the history of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Former MP Samra Kosovic-Hidajovic was found guilty of discriminatory hate speech. When the Balkan nation's capital city witnessed its inaugural LGBTQ Pride March in 2019, Hidajovic wrote on Facebook, "I want people like these to be isolated and put away from our children and society. Let them go somewhere else and make a city, a state, and a law for themselves, but not here." The court said those words hurt the right to equal treatment of members of the LGBTIQ community on the basis of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and sexual characteristics, according to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. The former lawmaker is ordered not to repeat those sentiments and has had to pay court costs. Bosnia and Herzegovina's 4 million people are split between Muslim and Orthodox Christian. Bias based on sexual orientation or gender identity was outlawed in 2009, but those laws had not been applied in a legal proceeding until now. Darko Pandujovic of the NGO Sarajevo Open Center admits it's been a long time since those laws were passed. The center filed this case and provides legal counsel to advance women's and LGBTQ rights. Pandujovic hailed the verdict as historic. Since discrimination became illegal, Bosnia and Herzegovina have made slow but steady progress in advancing LGBTQ equality. The government is reportedly working on legislation to legally recognize same-gender couples.
LGBTQ activists in Eswatini lost and won in the High Court. They were denied legal recognition in the African nation formerly known as Swaziland, but the same ruling acknowledged their right to exist. Eswatini sexual and gender minorities challenged the registrar of companies' rejection of their application based on the fact that gay male sex is against the law there. Executive Director Sisanda Mavimbela denounced the court's conclusion that the group wants to sell sex to the public. This is nowhere found in the mandate and vision of the organization. Eswatini is tiny beside its neighbor, South Africa. It's the last remaining monarchy on the continent. King Swati has been on the throne since 1986 and has absolute power in the former British colony. He can even hire and fire judges. A violent attack by his military forces on a pro-democracy protest in June last year resulted in a number of deaths. Although its ruling supported the registrar, the court still wrote, "It is clear that our Constitution guarantees the rights irrespective of gender or sex. They have a right not to be discriminated against or be subjected to inhumane and degrading treatment. They have a right to associate. These rights are, however, subject to the laws as prevailing in the kingdom." The Southern Africa Litigation Center helped the queer Eswatini group in its legal filings. Its executive director, Anneke Meerkotter, said, "The judgment highlights once again how hard it is for citizens to assert their rights to association and expression in Eswatini's courts."
A bill to make cross-dressing a criminal offense in Nigeria was protested by about 50 people in the capital city of Abuja on May 1st. Convictions under the proposed amendment to the 2013 law outlawing marriage equality would warrant up to 6 months in prison or a substantial fine, exceeding what most Nigerians earn in a year. Only entertainers are exempt. The West African country is the most populous on the continent and won its independence from Britain in 1960. However, lawmakers kept the colonial-era laws against same-gender sex on the books. Anti-queer hatred runs deep in the country, which has followers of Islam and Christianity in about equal numbers. So the pro-queer demonstration in Abuja was more than remarkable. Social media posts show the mostly young participants dancing to upbeat music and waving rainbow and trans pride flags. Some wore T-shirts or carried placards proclaiming "No queer liberation without trans liberation" and "Queer rights are human rights." Award-winning writer and activist Aniko de Samchukwu told Pink News that It was very important for us to come out and show that we actually exist and stake our claim to Nigeria, because there's always this discourse that queerness isn't African. He said his social media accounts were overwhelmed with messages from people telling me that they would kill me.
The U.S. Department of Justice is taking Alabama to court with a challenge to the first state-level measure making life-saving care for transgender young people a crime. The recently enacted law makes it a felony for a healthcare professional to provide gender-affirming care to trans people under the age of 19. Violators are punished by up to 10 years in prison and a $15,000 fine. The Justice Department says the law set to take effect on May 8th denies necessary medical care to children based solely on who they are. Its complaint asks the court to issue an immediate order blocking enforcement of the law while it's fully litigated. A separate lawsuit filed in mid-April is also challenging the constitutionality of the Alabama law. Its plaintiffs are two families with transgender teens and two doctors who have been treating them with puberty blockers and hormone therapy.
3 Orlando, Florida area property owners caught in the crossfire are suing Republican Governor Ron DeSantis in federal court over his retaliatory action against Walt Disney World. After Disney announced its belated opposition to the state's infamous Don't Say Gay law, DeSantis pushed a bill through the state legislature to revoke the self-governing status of the resort and amusement complex. That special status required Disney to provide its own fire and law enforcement agencies and pay all infrastructure costs. Eliminating Disney's special status apparently leaves local taxpayers saddled with the estimated $58 million in annual public safety and infrastructure costs that the mouse used to cover. Some economists estimate an increase of as much as 25% in Orlando area property taxes as a result. The DeSantis camp insists that such conclusions are partisan political lies.
A copycat Don't Say Gay bill is dead in a Republican-controlled Louisiana State House committee. The 7-4 vote to kill it in the Education Committee this week included every Democrat and 3 Republicans. Meanwhile, the toll of the political climate is reflected in alarming conclusions from the Trevor Project's annual report. The Queer Youth Suicide Prevention Group released findings this week that almost 1 in 2 LGBTQ young people in the U.S. had seriously considered suicide in the past year. Almost 1 in 2 trans or non-binary youth said they had made actual attempts. Those were significant increases from previous years. The poll surveyed almost 34,000 self-identified LGBTQ young people across the country. Trevor Project Executive Director Amit Paley drew a direct line from the uptick in suicidal ideation to what he called relentless political attacks against LGBTQ people during this time period.
Finally, Karine Jean-Pierre is stepping into the job of White House press secretary. Jeanpierre replaces Jen Psaki, who has served as press secretary since President Joe Biden's inauguration. Psaki will turn over the reins on May 13th, bound for a cable news career. She presented Jeanpierre to the White House press corps on May 5th with an affectionate introduction.
As you all know, she will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing because representation matters, and she is going to she will give a voice to so many and allow and show so many what is truly possible when you work hard and dream big, and that matters. And I just want to say, I will have a lot to say about how grateful I am for for the trust the President and the First Lady and the whole team have given me and entrusted me in the last 15 months. But this day is about Karine, and I want to celebrate her, and I just can't wait to see her shine at the podium.
Jeanpierre was born in the French Caribbean nation of Martinique to Haitian parents and has been active in U.S. politics for more than 20 years. She represented the progressive grassroots group MoveOn.org and has served both Presidents Obama and Biden in various campaign and administrative posts. Jeanpierre is married to CNN correspondent Suzanne Malveaux, and they have a 6-year-old daughter. GLAAD CEO Sarah Kate Ellis celebrated Jeanpierre's elevation. She wrote, To have an out queer person of color speak for the President of the United States says everything about Karine's talent and heart. Our whole community looks forward to seeing Karine deliver for our nation and represent every LGBTQ person with pride.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending May 7th, 2022. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap was written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazor, and brought to you by you.
Thank you. Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm Sarah Montague. Stay healthy.
And I'm Melanie Keller. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world. And we are also a free online news service.
You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org.
Please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out.
We'll respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show.
You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture.
Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.